Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. Well, of course, I've been getting a lot of calls and concerns post-election. I can only tell you it's Thursday. Here's the story for you, especially for my new, younger friends who haven't been around my teachings. Uh, I always try to show how yoga has different forms that don't take you necessarily to the East, to Hinduism or Buddhism. Right here in our own culture, we can find it. But those old teachings are great, and they're so simple. I can tell this to a kindergartner, and they get it. Once there was a poor woodcutter, Johnny Carson fans. How poor was he? He was so poor that if he didn't cut a little bit of wood every single day, he didn't even have enough for a cup of rice for his family. But it wasn't that he was lazy. It was just that he was in a village of woodcutters, and everybody was cutting wood. So when supply exceeds demand, your work is not worth a lot. But he loved his family, so he went out to ply his trade every day. Now, in India, there's a legend that if you happen to meet a wandering sadhu or holy person, bow down and wait for this blessing, because it's possible that they have developed what they call Vak Siddhi, which is the power of truth, so that anything that they say, whatever comes out of their mouth, it's going to come true on the material plane, like we say, from your mouth to God's ears. Well, that's what it was. One day he was walking, all of a sudden he passed by this sadhu, and he realized what was happening, so he bowed down, he prostrated himself, he got ready, and the sadhu raises his hand and says, "Go forward, my child, go forward," and then walks away. He looks up. Go forward, go forward. I wait my whole life to have a moment like this, and do I get some kind of mantra initiation? No. Does he elucidate some part of the Holy Scripture? No. Instead, I get MapQuest, go forward. Oh my God, that's really my karma. So he's shaking his head like that, and he goes to the forest where he normally does his daily business. And he's about to raise his axe to hit the tree, and he hears the voice of the sadhu saying, "Go forward, my child, go forward." And in one of those weird moments, he says, what the hey-ho, he didn't say stay the same. So he puts his axe in the sheath, he walks further into the forest, and all of a sudden he comes across a grove of maple trees. Everybody knows that the kindling is fantastic for fire, and no one has it. So he cuts it down, and he goes and he sells it, and everybody's abuzz. "Where'd you get this?" But he doesn't say anything. And now, for the first time in months, he has a decent meal for his family. Well, being a master of the forest, he knows exactly where this find is, so he goes there the next day. He raises his hand to hit the maple tree, and he hears the voice in his mind, "Go forward, my child, go forward." He says, I got the blessing, I understand that. All right, fine, not arguing. He sheathes the axe. He goes deeper into the woods. Eucalyptus, a twofer. The trees are great for firewood, but the leaves are used medicinally in Ayurveda. Oh, a twofer, great. So he goes in, sells one to the apothecary, sells the other wood in the markets, because nobody has eucalyptus, and now, he has some surplus. Well, he doesn't tell anybody what's going on. Then the next day he walks in, he raises his axe to the eucalyptus tree, he hears the voice of the sadhu, "Go forward, my child, go forward." And now you got to remember, to be enlightened, you don't have to be literate. You don't even have to think. In fact, it's better if you don't think. He sheathes his sword because he realizes what's happening. He walks further into the forest, lignum vitae, the hardest wood in the world, and it's a grove. Now he's on the verge of becoming a prosperous woodcutter. But he doesn't stop there, because he realizes blessings in these stories multiply. So on successive days, he goes further into the forest, and one day he finds a silver mine, the next day a gold mine, and then the third day a diamond mine, till he becomes as wealthy as Kubera, the Lord of Wealth himself. So what can I tell you out there, kids? Go forward and don't stop. Our work is still what we got to do, regardless of who's in office. All right, so for my journaling question, friends, today, it's about the magician in you, or the medial woman, as I like to say. Have you contacted your inner elder, your inner wise man, your inner juicy crone inside yourself? If you have, what counsel have they given you? And if you haven't matured in that sector yet, who's the model that you look to for guidance when you're in trouble? Let me know what's going on. I'd love to discuss that with you. All right, so my teacher reminds me on an ongoing basis, I've internalized this teaching, that yoga represents the constant renewal of your effort, the perpetual striving for improvement, purification. And remember, perfection is perfecting. It's a gerund. You keep on going. It's everything contrary to the idea of being satisfied with what one has attained. And I know that seems to fly in the face of what santosha or contentment is all about, but it's really like, do your best and continue to find infinite gradations of unfolding of your potential. I hope that you will continue to Join the generation of the future by improving your literacy on all different levels, reading for sure, computer literacy for sure, and taking on something new. That's the most important thing. To stay young, do something where you have to learn a new skill. However awkward and clumsy it may be when you're an adult rookie, it's really good to have those kind of humbling experiences. And remember, there never was a winner who wasn't first a beginner. So you've got to start somewhere. Now, I'm always talking about what therapeutic experience is. How do we heal ourselves from wounds in the past, find a larger context in which to hold whatever traumatic experience we may have experienced, because we all need relationship, but not only just relationship with oneself and each other, but with the transpersonal source of all being. Otherwise, we're limited by our own psychological confirmation bias. So get outside yourself. And this brings you to understand the vulnerability and fragility of our heart. I'm amazed at how strong and resilient love can be, and also how fragile and easily wounded our love can be. But I try to reinforce my love for other people by doing something meaningful for someone every single day. I practice this every opportunity I get, every opportunity that arises, and I constantly tell people how much I appreciate them in my life, in many ways that they made a difference by being in my life. And although sometimes, myself included, we seem to be great at putting ourselves down, we all do it. But remember, we all have the right to feel good about ourselves. So how do you do that? Well, resolve to act to your highest insight, your most earnest and sincere self, the one where you're pure love, where you create trust, and most important, laughter. Because laughter raises you above the sphere of reverence and worship into what I call dalliance. And that's called the lila, the play or the dance of life. So do it in an easy way. The mental effort, the law of mental effort says, effort defeats itself. The law of relaxation says mental pressure is doomed to failure, because the moment you get tense, then the brain ceases to work with creative flow. Find that out. How do you do that? Relax and build a monument to well-being. You deserve the legacy of well-being, but you got to build it yourself. That's where you realize that health, certainly spiritually and psychologically, is your normal state. So decide that feeling good matters, connecting to your spiritual relationships matter, and release any resistance you have to feeling good and allow it to come through you, number one, because you deserve it, and number two, you become a channel through which the blessings can flow into the world. And then have a great day. See you tomorrow.